Morning. Come back down to the woods today just to see if I can get some shots. I've had a bit of a walk around. The bluebells are starting to come out now, but they're not 100% yet, so I think I'm going to give it another few weeks and we'll see if we can get a nice image. Currently, I've had a bit of a walk around and it looks really nice. It's really calm, there's no one around. Birds are singing. But yeah, I'm struggling to find a composition if I'm completely honest, and as a result of that I've reverted back to an old image which I've taken quite a few times. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen this image 2 or 3 times in the last few months, covering different seasons. So yeah, this is a different take on it, and I would probably say it's one of the better looking shots because the rapeseed fields have really come into bloom and it makes a really nice foreground. So I'll take you through my settings in a moment and just how I'm going to go about making the shot, and we'll see if we can create something half decent. So I'm currently set at f4, ISO 64, and I'm at a focal length of around 290. I could go further. I've got 400 on this particular lens, but this is looking quite nice. I don't know if you can see on the camera. Let's see if I can focus. So yeah, as you can see, I've got some nice foreground flowers here. I want to do a 2 bracket shot, 2 different exposures just in case. However, I think I'll only need 1 shot for this and it should be fine. So let's take the shot. Let's take these shots and see how it goes. Let's have a quick look at those just to review. Oh, that one is really dark. You can hardly see on here, but this is obviously the darker exposure. I've got just a 2 bracket on, and this is just looking at that immediately, I can see that I'll only be using 1 exposure on this particular shot. Welcome back. We're back on the computer. I have all the images loaded up and I want to take you through an edit. Before we get started, I have to say and have to apologise for the horrendous audio towards the end of the video that you just watched. I was talking behind the mic, which is a schoolboy error on my part. Always learning, always taking things away from each video that I do. So apologies for that, that will be corrected for the next video. Let's jump right in and I'll take you through what I did to this particular image using both Lightroom and Photoshop. Okay, let's go. We are now in Adobe Lightroom CC. I have the image opened up in the develop module. This is the raw file and it was captured at ISO 64, 270mm f6. Now, the first thing that jumps out at me with this particular image is that it needs a crop. There's way too much going on, way too much sky. There's not a lot of interest in the sky. So this is one of the first things I go to when I start my editing, crop tool. So let's go over to the crop tool. So I think I want to go for a 4:5 ratio. Slightly straighten. Now the tree isn't spot on in the middle here, which is what I want. So we'll unlock the padlock here and we'll just make some small slight alterations. So let's have a look. That looks about right to me. Now because we've done that, I'll bring up the foreground slightly. And we'll take a little bit off the top there. Okay, quite happy with that. We'll press enter. Doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is lens corrections. We'll click on the remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. Right. So now I'm going to reduce the exposure. Go with 0.75. Okay. The highlights are going to reduce down. Let's have a look. I think all the way, because that sky is really bright. Contrast, miss that out. Let's have a quick look. I'll add a little bit of contrast. Plus 15, I think. We're going to add plus 50 with white, so I really want these flowers to pop in the foreground. And we'll reduce the blacks to add a little bit more contrast. Okay. The shadows, I think I'm going to leave them as they are. Now I'm going to choose the graduated filter for the top of the image here. I'm going to add some more contrast. I'm going to increase the temperature slightly. Plus 25. Probably a little bit too much, but I'm happy with that. Okay. I'm going to drop the highlights again. And we're also going to drop the blacks just to add a little bit more contrast. Actually going to use the dehaze tool, I think, as well. To -14. Okay, so now we'll get another graduated filter for the bottom of the image. Pull it up to about there. We'll start afresh, so I'm going to go with white. I want to increase the white here, so I really want these flowers in the foreground to pop, these ones here. So let's see what we can do. So we'll increase the whites again. Actually going to increase the clarity also. And dehaze to really make the foreground pop. Right, I'm reasonably happy with that. So now I'm going to go over to the tone curve. I'm going to do the standard S tone curve, so 3 points. I'm going to create a slight S. Drop those blacks very slightly. Next up is the HSL tab. Let's start from the top, so let's go with the red. Don't think there's nothing there at all, so we'll leave that as it is. Orange, I expect it's very much the same, not much. There's a nasty smudge going on over here, we'll sort that out later. Alright, yellows. Now, let's see. Oh, okay, so there you go. That's pretty crazy. I want the yellows to be a little bit more yellow, so I'm just going to increase it very, very slightly. So we'll go plus 7. Okay, so greens, I expect there's going to be a lot of change here as well. Yes, there is. So there's different types of looks you can go for, but I do want to keep it as true to the scene as possible. Obviously that's way too blue, so I think I'm just going to increase it very slightly. I know it looks quite blue at the moment, but we'll fix this later. But it is helping with the contrast of the image, so I'm gonna leave it at plus 32 for now. Aquas, nothing at all. Leave that. Blues, also nothing at all. I'm gonna leave those, and I know for sure that there's no purple and magenta, so we'll leave that also. We'll move down to saturation. Now red again. There's not many colours in this image, so a lot of these aren't going to make much difference at all. It's mostly the yellow and the green sliders which are going to start to affect the image in the way we want to. So I'm going to bring down the saturation of the yellow very slightly, and the same with the greens. Now you see immediately we have a completely different looking green after increasing the hue to a more blue tone in the hue saturation tab. by eliminating the saturation of the green. We've got a really nice moody dark kind of greyish green, which does work really nice for some images. But for this one, I think we're going to keep it around the 70s for now. But I do like that kind of grade on the green. Aqua, will leave that blue, very slightly reduce the saturation, as we do have some blues in the foreground. I think that's it for saturation. We'll move on to luminance. We're going to increase the yellows here because we really want them to pop out the image. It is the main colour in the image, so let's increase the yellows slightly. Now I'm going to stick with 17. Luminance, I think we're going to take the blue right down here. Anything with the green? I'm going to leave the green as it is. So we are done with that. Let's move over to split toning. Okay, so highlights. I want to add some yellow into the highlights. I think we're just going to go very slightly here, maybe plus 15 or 16. And with the shadows, I think we're going to add some cooler tones to the shadows. I'm just going to keep it at plus 11. Sharpening, we'll use the masking tool. It looks about okay to me. So I'm going to increase the sharpening quite significantly, and then I'm going to pull up the radius, pull up the detail, sorry, and bring down the radius. We've done lens corrections. I don't tend to touch transform. Effects, I'm going to add a slight vignette. Go about minus 13. And then we'll smoothen out that midpoint. So about 30. So let's just have a look at a quick before and after. So this is the before. And this is where we are currently. So as you can see, we've really introduced contrast and colour into the image. The tree and the bushes have really started to pop out, and also the foreground is looking quite nice there also. Right, so now I think we will take the image over into Photoshop. Right, so we're now over in Adobe Photoshop. And as you can see, we have the image displayed and a smart object layer on the right here. First thing that I'm going to do is add a LUT. Now LUT stands for lookup table. It's a type of preset. Now I know I said I don't use presets earlier on in the video. However, when in Photoshop, I do use elements of LUT profiles to help colour my images, and I'll take you through how I go about doing that now. So I just over on the adjustments panel here where I'm pointing to, you'll see a little grid icon here. This is the colour lookup table, so we'll click on that. Now you'll see a drop down box come up like this. Now at the top we select this drop down menu, and there's all of these different type of LUTs which are like profiles. Let's just try a few now and have a quick look. So I mean they do all sorts to your images, mostly damage them. But there are the odd profile. I mean that one looks quite nice in itself. There are the odd profile which really do add to the image, and I just tend to use different sections of that. So I'm going to choose the Fuji F125 Kodak 2395, which is this one here. So this is a really nice profile. I think it really complements the image, but I don't want it all the way across the image here. So
I also use luminosity masks. I actually use a program called Raya Pro, which some of you may have heard of. It's a program created by Jimmy McIntyre. I find this program really useful, but there are quite a few different variations of luminosity masks, and you can of course do this manually, albeit it takes a little bit longer than how I'm going to show you now. So I want this LUT to purely affect the shadows in the image. So over here on my Raya Pro 3 tab, I have a section where I can essentially choose parts of the image that I want the layer to affect the final image. So as you can see, we have a layer mask here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the shadows like this. It'll take a few seconds, and as you can see, the layer mask is now only affecting the shadow sections of the image. Now if I turn this on and off, you'll see in the bottom part of the screen where most of the shadows are, this preset or LUT is affecting the image. So I'm going to reduce the opacity to approximately 50%. And let's have a look at how that's doing. So that's more of a subtle change, and I think that looks really nice. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp a new image to work from, as I want to do some repairs to the image. So I'm going to grab the healing brush tool here on the left, and I'm going to see how easy this is going to be to remove this line here. So this particular tool, you need to press Option, select an area where you want to sample the paste from, and simply paint it away. Simple as that. So I'll just speed through this process, because otherwise this video is going to be about 30 hours long. Okay, that was a little bit more painful than expected. Very difficult removing objects behind other objects such as trees. However, having brushed through all of that, I feel as though the image now looks quite natural. Let's do it before and after. So this is after, and this is before. So as you can see, we've removed the line across here, also this smaller line here. Let's have a quick look again. That looks fine to me. So I'm quite happy with that. The next thing we're going to do is to try and remove this smudge. Let's select the stamp tool over here. Let's zoom in. Let's have a look at before and after. I mean, that already looks much better. Right, so now we're going to look at some dodging and burning. I am conscious that this video is quite a lengthy video, so I'll try and speed things up a little bit. So to do dodging and burning, I'm going to be using the luminosity masks of Raya Pro again. I want to select the dodging and burning tab here, which should bring up a section. So we're going to start by dodging and burning the shadows. So I'll just select the shadows here, which will create a separate layer mask. Okay, we're going to adjust this slightly. So the white areas are what we can affect, and the dark areas will be masked out. So let's just bring this right down here. Okay. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to separate the tree from the background so that we can do any adjustments to the tree alone and not affect the background. So that looks quite nice. You see here how we've got the tree perfectly outlined. So this is all white. So anything we brush upon this area will only affect the tree section. So let's press OK to that layer mask. Let's select our brush. We're going to reduce the opacity to I think around 30%. That should be fine. We're going to select a black color. Let's zoom in. Now what I want to do essentially is I want to make this tree pop out. So I'm gonna brush in. That is way too much. So hang on just a second. Let's just undo that. Let's start with a lower opacity, 10%. Open up the brush a little bit and slightly paint it in. So you can see now the tree starting to get darker. And you'll also notice that this isn't affecting the field in the background, which is essentially what we need. Let's just do a quick before and after. It's very easy to get ahead of yourself with things like this. So I'm really happy with that. However, I will be reducing the opacity because I want it to blend into the image. I don't want it to look too fake. So let's just bring that down a little bit. And this is a small edit. Bring it down a little bit further. Okay, let's zoom out and see if we can see the changes. So this is before. Now you need to keep your eye on this tree area here. And this is after. You see, it's a small edit, but it brings the tree forward into the image. You know, your eyes will then follow from the foreground through to the tree in the background much easier when it's got a little bit more contrast. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just going to go in and make a few more edits to the shadow areas at the back here. So I'm also going to paint in a little bit on these bushes here. And I think that's enough. Okay, that looks nice. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a autumn effect. I'm going to go into the Dodge and Burn tab. I'm going to click on autumn effect and it will make the changes. So we'll just press OK here. And again here. Okay, so this is the autumn effect. Now, as you can see, that is way overpowering the image. It's too much. The only area that I want it in is in the highlights. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a layer mask to the autumn filter. Then I'm going to go back up to my Raya Pro table here and I'm going to select highlights. So by pressing that, the filter, the autumn filter, will only affect the highlight areas. Now as you can see, there's already a dramatic difference made there. And I'm actually going to adjust that even further because I only want to affect the brightest parts of the image. So let me just alter these slightly. So we want the shadows completely unaffected by this filter. Okay, so all of the white areas should be affected by the filter. Now we've got a large area in the sky which is going to be affected, and I may paint that out at a later stage. So let's just see what this looks like now. So this is after and this is before. It's a very subtle change, very subtle, but it just adds a little bit more to your image. Okay, let's group these changes together and we'll see what we've managed to create. So this is what we started with when we came out of Lightroom. We've added some filters, we've done some dodging and burning, and this is what we have now.
So that's the end of today's video. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. Hopefully you've taken something away. And yeah, I'll be doing more of these in the future. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Any comments you have, any questions, anything you'd like me to include in future videos, please put in the comments at the bottom of the video. And yeah, that's it for now. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.